All right, guys, let's get going. Welcome to this wonderful Wednesday. Some alliteration for you there. So today we're going to be talking about Shopify and Intacct and have a live demo for you. So I'll go ahead and preference that live demos are always fun, right? We're not smoke and mirrors. So if anything goes wrong, you get to see it in real time with us. So let's get going real quick. If you haven't heard much about us, then we are Intacct Marketplace Partners. Most of you probably do know who we are, but we come in and assist and fill those gaps where partners or Intacct Direct may not have the skill set on staff to take care of that. So we've built a number of these integrations that we call standard integrations. They follow a very particular methodology and fit most of our customers and partners' needs. So today, we're talking about Shopify, and we've got other ones like HubSpot and Stripe out there as well. If you're interested in those, we've got other links to click. So let's focus on Shopify for today. So we do have a deck to kind of run through. So I've got my colleague here, Chase, who couldn't be with us today. He's actually out in San Francisco doing some other things, but normally he's on here with me. We're going back and forth, jabbing at each other and make it a good time. But if you have worked with us, you probably know Chase and his face. So he's a really good dude, very technical, and we pull him a lot into these conversations. I'm Brent, by the way. Hi, I'm Brent. I'm an AE here at Venn, been here for 2 years now. I think today, Mel, is my Venniversary, which is super fun.
Happy Venniversary, Brent.
Yeah, 2 years in the Sage Intacct integration space today. So how about that? Grown a lot in this time, learned a lot about this world. Okay, so let's talk about what our agenda is going to be today. So brief introduction of integrations. I've kind of touched on this is what we do. We do integrations in this space. We'll talk about how we go about that, our methodology. We'll do a live demo. And then if we do have any questions, I want to make sure we leave time for that. But I'm also totally available to catch up on a call after this time. We can schedule some time and talk about any specific use cases you guys may have for your partners or for your particular Shopify environment. Okay, so right off the bat, let's talk about where pain points sit today. So we got a poll. Melissa is going to put that up on the screen. Which of the following is you or your customer's biggest pain point today? This isn't specifically to Shopify, but Shopify incorporates a lot of this. So I'll give it just a second. If you guys could fill that out, that will help us understand where we are and what we should talk about. So I'll stop for just a second and let that kind of go.
It's looking to be C, syncing transactional data, Brent.
C, syncing transactional data. So I guess that makes sense. We've got two systems here that have transactional data in both of them. We've got an e-commerce platform that's sitting out there taking in orders, whether it be POS, whether it be online. And then we need to get that data actually moved over into Intacct so we can account for it appropriately, right? And at the moment, there's no integration in place. You have to export that data and then do some transformation to it and then import it into Intacct, applying the appropriate transaction definitions, rev rec schedules, and so forth. So that does make a lot of sense. All right, continuing to move on here. So let's talk about integrations as a whole and how we at Venn approach them. So we do a ton of these, not just the few I've mentioned so far. We're constantly adding new systems in, but we follow the same approach for every single one. So I won't read all of this to you guys. You guys didn't come here for me to read slides, and I think we're going to send this deck out maybe afterwards. But in general, there's a 1% error rate when it comes to data that's being put into a system manually. 1% doesn't seem like that much. It's literally 1/100th. It's super, super small. However, when you talk about data that is driving your business, data that could impact a decision to be made down the road, this can cost a lot of time, a lot of money, a lot of attention. And then at the very bottom here, a year, 5 years down the road, it compounds over time. If your data has been bad for 5 to 10 years, you're just compounding that error rate over time. So it's really important to have an automated system, an automated approach that's going to accurately pull that data across. So you're not having to manually enter that and ultimately potentially suffer manual errors at the end of the day. So integration is bringing data and apps together. Surprise there. We take a tool and put it between the two, and we connect that data. So we create a highway, if you will. So we pull that across there. The types of integrations that are out there in the wild, we're familiar with all of these, although we really focus on one. And I'll go really quick through this. We've got package integrations. This means that someone has put together a package and you can kind of install that. If you're in the Salesforce world, this is what the advanced CRM is, Salesforce and Intacct together. It's a packaged integration that installs a bunch of objects into your Salesforce org. You've got custom code. This is more of a traditional approach where we're hosting that code on a server, whether it be on-site, off-site, but we call this hard coding the integration. It's very, very hard to maintain. It's not very scalable at the end of the day, but it is a possibility. So a lot of teams will do this internally because they have the resources, the dev team, to do that. RPA, or robotics process automation, is more teaching a computer to do clicks on a screen, and you're training a robot to do a lot of the manual stuff that you would do anyway. And then our approach is around the middleware side. So it's a no-code, low-code approach where we use APIs to connect these systems together, build out logic. We teach a computer to do some logic in the middle. And then based on triggers that take place, we can push and pull that data according to your specific business needs. So that's how we approach our integrations. So we leverage this middleware. It connects between an app or a data source. So things on the right, without middleware, I kind of mentioned this. This is related a lot to the code side. It can be very costly to maintain. It's not scalable. It can be vulnerable to security threats. It's a more old methodology, but still works to this day if you're used to that. With middleware, it's more secure. We've got unlimited data sync. We're very flexible in what we can do with the system. And then we have built-in error monitoring as well. So if an error does occur, which systems are not 100% all the time, we'll notify you what's going on, tell you exactly where to go to fix the issue. You fix it, you rerun it, and it just syncs through. Doing that in a code environment, you're going through thousands and thousands of lines trying to find that one specific area that might have messed up. Or in a middleware tool, it's more declarative and easier to process. Okay, so what's possible with integration? So let's talk about Shopify and Intacct specifically. So the way we've built this, I mentioned this idea of a standard integration. We're going to talk about what that standard is, and then just be thinking, if hey, we use our system this way. Well, that's fine. We can most likely accommodate, assuming we can get access to the data. But in our standard workflow, we got this diagram here. And Mel, can you see my arrow if I'm like pointing to stuff?
I
cool.
sure can.
Right.
Yep.
Cool. All right. So we've got, these are objects over in Shopify, and then we have objects over here inside of Intacct. So I'll walk through this in a second, but the basic idea is we're taking master data like your customer and your products and your transactional data like the orders and the payments, and moving that across to your Intacct environment to make sure we're staying in sync. And we can do this at the order entry level. We can do this straight to AR, straight to GL. We got some options there. So this is the nice pretty diagram for the one we'll spend some time talking through here. So this is kind of like our spaghetti highway, moving the data back and forth. So I'm going to talk at a high level real quick what this looks like, and then I'll actually show you the demo of this walking through. So we're at the objects over here between Shopify. We've got a customer. So we're going to start with an order is being placed, right? When you have an order, you're going to have a known customer, whether they're swiping a credit card or they're going online and putting in their account information in. We're going to have customer details. So we'll start with the customer. And when that order takes place, we have a successful transaction. We'll go look inside of Intacct and see if that customer already exists or not. If they don't, we can create them. If they do, we'll move on. A lot of people don't want all those individual customers coming over to Intacct, so we can create a dummy customer as well, one fake customer that all transactions roll up to. Again, flexibility is the name of the game here. We can accommodate. So after the customer, we move down to the more transactional stuff. So we have this order that came in, and the order has some line items on it. We'll take that order and those line items, we'll pick those up and move them over. In this particular case, we're talking about order entry. So we'll create an invoice inside of Intacct and invoice lines. So that all that is a lift and a shift, moving it into Intacct. And then the final piece is we have that payment that came through. So this was successful, right? So that payment gets logged as an AR payment detail against the invoice, showing it's paid off. We're golden at that point. Lifted and shifted that data. One quick touch point here, we have some of our customers that will place orders in Shopify, but they don't get payment immediately and they want to invoice out of Intacct. We can do that too. We can take that order, put that as an open invoice over here, and then now you can send that out to your customer to pay in whatever method they choose to. Cash, check, wire, Stripe on the back end, so forth. Products and product variants. If you're familiar with Shopify, they've got this multi-tiered approach. Product would be a t-shirt. A variant of that product would be the sizes, small, medium, large, the colors, the design, and so forth. So we'll take those and sync them over as well. We can go in either direction. The demo I show you in a second will be creating an item in Intacct, syncing it to Shopify, and then creating the order back across. But we generally will keep those in sync, whatever one you choose to master. That way, when the order does come through, we do have a check balance system here where we'll look and make sure that item does exist first. If it doesn't, we'll create it. You know, if someone went rogue and created a new product in Shopify, but somehow it didn't sync over to Intacct, we've got checks and balances to make sure that works. All right, the last piece is inventory. I'd say about 50-50 of our customers and partners use inventory in both systems. For us, we can go either direction. What we really need to know is if this is important to you, we really need to know where do you guys do your replenishing from? If you're going to put inventory into the system, are you going to do it inside of Shopify or are you going to do it inside of Intacct? And then we can build that bridge to keep it up to date and so forth. Now, the PO side will generally live in Intacct as well. So a lot of our customers will want to do the inventory inside of Intacct just because the PO process is going to live off of that. But we've got some flexibility around that. All right, last piece before I jump to the live demo is we skipped over refunds. We do have refunds built in to our integration where you can request, start the refund over in Shopify and take care of that. And then we'll use credit memos inside of Intacct to make sure that we're accounting for it appropriately on the back end. But the main point here is that the process will start inside of Shopify. Okay, cool. Well, let's keep going. Let me actually show you what this looks like. And preference here, live demo, right? So if something goes wrong, I'm going to blame someone else besides myself. So this is that same diagram we just looked at, but what I want to mention is I'm going to start here with an item. I'm going to start with an item inside of Intacct. I'm going to sync that over to Shopify as a product and a variant, and then I'll create an order off of that product and variant, paying for it right off the bat. And that's going to go create the appropriate invoicing and customer record and so forth inside of Intacct. Okay, so let's start there. I'm going to be mostly an order entry. So I'm going to create an item here. And I created a couple earlier around some baseball things. So I've got this item ID that starts with base. So let's do the same thing. I've got a glove, I've got a bat, I've got a baseball. Let's create a catcher's mitt. So I'll keep the same base and then we'll do some random numbers in here. Whoops, no, don't save that one password. That's not what I want to do. All right, so we'll call this catcher's mitt. I honestly don't know where catcher's mitt goes for. Let's just say it's like 5732. Good enough for me. I'm going to copy this ID and I'm going to come over here to the Shopify tab that we've created on the item. I'm going to do a couple of things. So for the SKU, I'm going to put this item in here, but we've got some variation that we can do with parent SKUs and actual SKUs. I'm going to call this a leather. So catcher's mitt or all, let's call it the blue leather glove, just for the variant name to give it one variant over inside of Shopify. And then I'm going to manually set this to sync. We have some automation inside of Intacct that we can do this without you guys manually do it, but I'm going to manually select that now and click save. So when this goes through, I've got my catcher's mitt here I just created. We run pretty much everything out of Intacct through Smart Event Jobs. So the company here, Smart Event Jobs, this is my traffic cop, if you will. So anything that's trying to queue up and sync over will go right here under Smart Events. So I give this a couple of refreshes and eventually that'll go through the system. and show up on the other end. So while that goes, I'm going to hop over to Shopify and go to my products here and see if I can get here before it actually syncs over. I'm going to sort them by created newest first. So the newest one was that bat that I synced earlier today, and a couple of the other ones as well. So I'll just give these a couple of refreshes until that actually comes through. There we go.
Got
so there's
some
catchers.
fun items on that list, Brent. Renewing eye cream, hot chocolate.
We do a lot of demos for some different orgs, and it gets really tough coming up with new stuff. I'll be honest with you. So I try to think like, what's a theme I can do right now? I know the Rangers have a game tonight. I was listening to that earlier. It's actually $1 hot dog night tonight. So if you're in Dallas and want a cheap meal, but also buy some tickets to the game, $1 hot dog night. Okay, so also I didn't touch on the inventory piece in the actual Intacct side. So I'm just going to do it manually here. I'm going to adjust the inventory. So on this side, let's say we have, I don't know, 75 mitts that came in. So I'm going to adjust that here, that blue leather glove that came through. That way it's ready for us to actually purchase. Otherwise, we're selling an empty shelf, which we can do that too. You can go into the negative, or we can do a traditional inventory. Okay, so with the Shopify store, they have us go through this actual online portal. So I'm going to pull this up. This is a very, very basic, not a designed at all store that just has all the products that you saw on the previous page, right? So I'm going to go down here. I'm going to view all of my products. And then I'm going to come a couple of screens over to where my B's start. There it is. So there's a baseball, a bat, a glove. There's the catcher's mitt we just added for $57.32. So I'm actually going to create a cart with a few of these things. So we'll do a number of baseballs here, add to the cart. You got to have, plenty of baseballs. A team doesn't need a ton of bats. So we'll just add a couple of those. A team has, 9 people on the field? Is that right? Well, 8 minus the catcher, 9 minus the catcher. So we'll add that in. And then we'll do 1 catcher's mitt to round it off. Okay, so we have all that now in my cart, 33 items. I'll view the cart. And we have our individual totals multiplied by the quantity. Our total is $624.35. Okay, so I'm going to check out now from this fake store. I'll add an email here for me. Let's do my name, last name, our address here at Venn. Okay. And then let's put some payment info in and we should be off to the races. Oh, shipping, we need to ship this out. So we'll have that as a line item as well, all with tax as well. Okay, we'll put 1 in here. So that goes through. My name's on the card. And then some random date in the future. Okay, so this is ready to go. We'll hit pay now. So that order should be good and come through. We'll see our success page here inside of Shopify. Got the address located on the map. We got our line items sitting over here for the individual stuff coming through. We got our shipping and our taxes applied there as well. So at this point, we just triggered the integration to run. Coming back to our map over here, we triggered the integration to pick up on that payment that just came through. So now we've synced the item across. Now we're going to take the order, the payment, and the line items that were associated with that and create the appropriate records over here inside of Intacct. The payment, the invoice lines, showing that it's all good. So I'm going to come back to Intacct, come into order entry here, into my invoices, scroll down to Shopify sales. And I'm pretty sure that's my invoice there. Again, not smoke and mirrors. So what was our total? $683.35, 4 different line items. There we go, $683.35. We got our 4 different line items, the quantities that were associated with them. We've got our posting details of where things hit between debits and credits. We've got our payment was a one payment. We can do split payments if need be as well. And then we have the Shopify tab on the invoice, the last little bit, to just put some audit trails here. So here's our order ID number from Shopify. We've got our timestamp of when it worked through. And then we have our backend system where we're running the integration through. If there were any errors, we could go directly to the job that ran and see what took place there. So one other thing I want to show you is coming to one of these, this catcher's mitt that I created. So there's a couple of other things that came through in the background as we had this synced over. So coming over to the Shopify tab, we can show when it's synced over, the Shopify transaction ID. We've got the variant ID, the product ID that was all created. So Shopify took care of creating some of this for us, and then we wrote that back into Intacct, right? So we're keeping these systems in sync and allowing, you know, one of them to be the master, one of them to be the recipient of that information. Cool. So that's what that looks like. Coming back over here to the deck now, go back into slideshow mode, and then I think that's it. We crushed that in like 21 minutes, Mel. So
Yeah, that was fun.
We've got a few minutes left for sure. Maybe we'll get out a couple of minutes earlier than expected. But any questions you guys have for me? Nothing's off limits. So fire away. We got anybody asking some stuff in the chat, Mel?
Yeah, we've got a few. So we'll start from the top. If we're in the process of implementing Sage Intacct, when's the best time to bring in an integration with Shopify? Is that now? Is that after go live?
That's a great question. So you said we're in the process of implementing?
Mm-hmm.
Great. So there's a couple of pieces to that. Actually, we sometimes get the question of when, for partners specifically, when should we bring Venn into the conversation? It's kind of a front end question there. And I would say as early as possible, because we want to be a part of y'all's success. We want to show that this is possible and be a part of getting the Intacct piece over the finish line too. In terms of when we come in to actually implement, we're having the conversation. It's good to do that as early as possible. When we'd actually be able to implement is going to trail the Intacct implementation by about a month and a half. They'll go through your chart of accounts, they'll go through your design of the system, and then we need something to hook into. We need some physical in the digital space product to attach to. And then sometimes we can actually go live together. On the other hand, we have plenty of people that have been on Intacct for a while that are thinking about moving to Shopify, or they've been on both systems for a while but haven't had them integrated together, and we can come in the back end and get that process connected too. So the kind of short answer, even though I took a long time to answer that, is about a month and a half into implementation, we can start, and then anytime after that, we can get them actually connected in.
Cool. You were thorough. I'm sure that was appreciated.
Great.
We had another one. So at the beginning of the demo, when you were adding the item, there were some other tabs for Salesforce and Stripe.
Mm-hmm.
I think where they're going with this is, it looks like a comment, but I think the question is, are those other integrations that we've tied into Sage Intacct?
Yes, absolutely. So we try to not have a whole bunch of disparaging systems, which includes demo environments. So we try to pull all of our demo orgs into one Intacct instance, which makes you see a Stripe tab, a Salesforce tab, a HubSpot tab. So those are what I call our big four that we've done a lot of integrations to. And we'll have plenty of organizations that will use multiple of those. Salesforce sits on the front end, we'll push invoices into Intacct, and then we'll use Stripe on the back end to actually go and receive that payment, routing the data back to Intacct, showing it's paid, and then ultimately routing that to Salesforce, showing your sales team that that's been paid for as well. So that's just some other demo environments that if you're interested in, we've got other time set aside. We do one of these webinars pretty much every week now, and would love for y'all to attend those as well. All
right, one more for you. So you talked about when to engage us and at what point after the go live when we re-engage, or kind of like when the project starts. How long does it take to implement from when we kick that off to when the client is able to use the integration?
Great question. So around our standard workflow that we just talked through, assuming we stay within those guardrails, we're going to be at about 4 to 6 weeks start to finish. And that includes some deeper dives in the requirements up front, as well as a couple of weeks on the back end for testing. So the build part actually goes relatively quickly. The part that will delay a project the most is going to be testing on the back end, just making sure we have adequate time to get it right before we push it into production. Now, if there are other things that are needed, other integrations to be built, that could extend further beyond that 6 weeks. But in general, that's a really good time frame to be thinking about, which is why we might be able to go live at the same time, because an Intacct flight is about 3 months or so. So we slot in and can pretty much meet the same window.
Cool. All right. That's all the questions I got on my end. So I think with that, we'll go ahead and wrap it up. So for anyone who's interested in learning a little bit more, jumping on a call with Brent to take a deeper dive into Shopify to Sage Intacct integration or any other integrations for that matter, definitely go out to our website. We've integrated with hundreds of other apps, a lot of experience with the Sage Intacct API. So go check out those resources and let us know if that's a conversation that we can either help you with a prospective client if you're a partner, or if you're a business using one of these tools, how we might be able to help there as well. So hope you learned something today, and thanks again for joining us. Hope you have a great rest of the week.
Awesome. Thanks, guys.